Hello, I'm Rebecca McLaughlin, young adult author of Nameless Queen, and I want to talk a little bit about writing book 2. I'm working on my second book right now. It's part of my contract with my editor, but it isn't a sequel. Nameless Queen was a standalone, and my second book will be a standalone as well. Because I follow a lot of authors on Twitter, and I'm friends with a lot of authors, I always hear dreadful tales of the sophomore novel, the second book, and how much harder and different and weird of a change it is from writing book 1. And now that I'm well into working on book 2, there's a lot of truth and some myths out there. I wanted to sort of sort through my feelings about what it means to write my second book. So the biggest thing I hear is that it's way harder than book 1. And I guess for me, I just don't know if I feel that globally. I think in a way, I've been through the process for book 1, so I know what to expect with book 2. So it's different and difficult in different ways, but not necessarily harder. Writing the first draft of my first book and writing this first draft of my second book didn't feel all too different to me. I mean, they felt different in the way that the stories were a little bit different, but they didn't feel different like, oh, the second one was way harder than the first. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of a myth for me. So throughout this whole process, what is different? Why is it different? Well, here's a summary of why it's different. For me specifically, my contract with Penguin Random House is for 2 books, Nameless Queen and a second, totally different book. It was going to be a sequel for a long time, but then, nah, let's do another standalone. There is a train coming to take you far away. So there are a lot of ways that writing another book under contract is very different than writing a first book. So for example, before you get an agent, before you start getting published, you have as much time in the world as you want to work on your book. You could work on it for years if you want. You could work on it as quickly as you want. You can engage however many people that you want. You have so much flexibility and freedom because it's just you. No one's waiting on you. You don't have any contracted deadlines to hit, etc. Writing a book on your own, you can write whatever you freaking want. Literally. It's absolute freedom. But when I came in to do my second book, because it was under contract, I had to pitch ideas to my editor and agent and find one that they liked enough for me to write. I went through probably about 8 or 10 pitches before we found one that everyone was really passionate about. And that was an entirely new process. I had never had to pitch a story before writing it. What? I don't even know how to do that. I didn't know anyway. It was weird. I had pitched books I had written. That was pretty easy because they were done. But pitching a book you haven't started, that you only have a conception of, that you're just trying to make sound catchy so that everyone will be excited for you to write it, that's weird, right? It was weird for me, and it was difficult in a different way than writing a book from scratch with no input. On the one hand, how do you format your brain into concise, pitch-worthy lines when the whole story doesn't exist yet and the characters are super new and you maybe don't even know their names? Ew. But on the other hand, then you get to start writing a book that you know is kind of already sold, literally sold. Your editor's already going to publish it. You just have to make it good. And that's a lot of pressure. You now have to write something that lives up to that pitch. Also stressful. And the way we went about it was I then did an outline, a very long 20-page outline, and then they had a lot of notes on that. And then basically we got to a point where my editor accepted the outline, and then I started drafting. And here I am, well into draft 2-ish, and things are going pretty okay. The other major thing that's different and difficult is that I don't have as much time in the world as I'd like. I'm kind of on a deadline. I'm not on a specific deadline for some reason. I haven't been told thou shalt finish thine second book and turn it in to your editor by this date. I'm working with a freelance editor who's in communication with my actual editor. So they're, I'm sure, having some conversations about timeline and stuff. I know that I tend to draft really fast, especially first drafts. But then also it can take me a really long time to get revisions sorted out. I've not been told a timeline, and I know that's kind of strange because all my other author friends who are writing a second book have these huge deadlines they're coming up toward, and I know that I'm sort of in the same boat of I really do need to have it done sooner rather than later, and I feel pretty strongly that I have enough time management skills and dedication to get it done in a reasonable time frame, but I also don't have a huge deadline looming over my head. I kind of want one a little bit, actually. I like deadlines. I set them for myself when they don't exist. So that's a comfort, and and I'm sure it's kind of weird. Another reason why book 2 often I think is perceived as so much more difficult than book 1 is because you're comparing a first draft of your second book to a finished draft of your first book. And of course that comparison is not good and does not make sense. And it can be a little bit daunting to see how far a book has come and know how much work and effort went into it, and to be looking at that road ahead and knowing that that much work awaits you again. Most of me is excited about that because when I see how much my first book has grown and how much I've grown over the course of writing it, I'm excited about that for book 2 as well. And of course, my feelings on this vary from day to day. Some days I'm like, yes, confidence abounds, I will destroy this second book. And other days, I am destroyed by this book. And in both of those cases, I'm trying to remember that it's just part of the natural cycle of creativity and creation, is that you hit highs, you hit lows, and part of what makes this a career, a job, is that you continue working through all of those things. You keep progressing, you keep improving, you keep working, and hopefully you keep enjoying it. Some days the work is harder than others. Some days it's a thrilling joy. Alright, so I guess I didn't formally list out the myths and the non-myths in terms of writing your second book, but I think that's okay because it's not really a list you can refer to because it is so different from person to person. You know, I may feel fine about doing my first drafts now, but come another book in the future, I may really struggle with getting a first draft on the page. And I mean, shoot, I probably do struggle a lot with getting the draft on the page. I could look back at my writing blog, I'm sure, and understand that it's a struggle. You know, it's kind of that hindsight is with rose-tinted glasses. That's not the phrase, but you get what I mean. It's easy to look back and sort of gloss over the details of history, especially your own, well, especially other people's, but let's not get into the complicated nature of retrospective romanticization? No, that's not right. I'm doing that wrong. That word is bad. Let's get back on track. Regardless of those ups and those downs, I'm going to keep working on book 2. I'm so excited for when I get to share it with you. I need to ask my editor when I can start sharing things with you, because I want to start talking about what it's about and this new character that I really like, and the annoying and fun people in her life and all the struggles and mistakes she makes and has to fix. And maybe I'll get to release a synopsis soon. That would be great. I don't know. That might not be true. But we'll see. Until then, I will keep bringing you videos about every Saturday about my writing process, the publishing process. If you have questions or thoughts, feel free to share them below. Otherwise, this is a video YouTube thinks that you will like, and this is my most recent upload. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. Bye!